Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the research vessel Horizon's Edge, watching Jupiter's great red storm swirl below them. The massive space station orbited the gas giant like a small moon, its laboratories and workshops buzzing with activity. 300 scientists worked day and night on projects that would change humanity's future. Jake had commanded this station for 5 years. He was a calm man with gray hair and steady hands. Nothing surprised him anymore. Or so he thought. The warning alarms broke the peaceful morning. Jake's communication officer, Lieutenant Mary Davis, looked up from her console with wide eyes. "Captain, we have an unknown ship approaching. It's big. Really big." Jake moved to the main screen. What he saw made his breath catch. A vessel the size of a city floated toward them. Its design was unlike anything humans had ever built. Smooth curves replaced sharp edges. Strange lights pulsed along its hull in patterns that seemed almost alive. "Are they responding to our signals?" Jake asked. "Yes, sir. They're asking permission to dock." In perfect English, Jake felt his heart rate increase. This was it. First contact with alien life. Every human had dreamed of this moment for centuries. Grant them permission. Alert Dr. Brooks and tell her to meet us in Docking Bay 3. Dr. Lisa Brooks was the station's chief scientist. She was a small woman with bright eyes and quick hands that never stopped moving. She could explain the most complex ideas in simple words. Jake trusted her more than anyone. The alien ship docked with surprising gentleness. Jake and Dr. Brooks waited with a small security team as the airlock opened. 3 figures walked through. They were tall and thin with blue-gray skin that seemed to shimmer. Their faces were human-like but longer, with large dark eyes. They wore simple robes that changed color as they moved. The leader stepped forward and spoke in a voice like wind through trees. "I am Ambassador Keltar of the Velthani people. We represent the Galactic Federation. We come with an important message for humanity." Jake stepped forward. "Welcome to our station. I'm Captain Morrison. This is Dr. Brooks. We're honored to meet you." Keltar's expression did not change. "Captain Morrison, we must speak privately. What we have to say will change everything for your species." They gathered in the station's main conference room. Keltar sat across from Jake and Lisa, while his 2 companions stood silently behind him. "Humans have been watched for some time," Keltar began. "Your species has reached a level of technology that concerns the Federation. We have come to offer you a choice." "What kind of choice?" Jake asked. "You must stop all technological advancement immediately. No new weapons, no new ships, no new tools of any kind. You will place your species under Federation oversight. In return, we will allow you to live in peace." Lisa leaned forward. "That's impossible. Humans don't work that way. We always build new things. We always try to make life better." "That is precisely the problem," Keltar said. His voice carried a note of fear. "Your species has a dangerous gift. You can turn anything into a weapon. The Federation has studied your history. Every tool you create, every discovery you make, you find ways to use it for war." Jake frowned. "Many species probably did the same thing when they were young. We've learned from our mistakes." "No," Keltar said sharply. "You do not understand. Other species weaponize their tools sometimes. Humans weaponize everything all the time without even thinking about it." Lisa laughed. "That's not true. Look around this station. We're building things to help people. Better medicine, cleaner energy, ways to grow food in space." "Show me," Keltar said. Lisa's eyes lit up. She loved showing off human achievements. "Follow me." They walked to Laboratory 7 where Lisa's team worked on their latest project. A large machine hummed in the center of the room, surrounded by screens showing planetary data. "This is our terraforming device," Lisa explained proudly. "It can change the atmosphere of any planet. Turn a dead world into a garden. We could make thousands of new homes for humanity." Keltar studied the machine carefully. "How does it work?" Lisa launched into an explanation. As she talked, her hands moved quickly, pointing to different parts of the device. Her enthusiasm was infectious. The atmospheric processors can add oxygen, remove toxic gases, even change the weather patterns. We can adjust gravity fields, modify soil composition, redirect water sources. With some small changes, we could reshape entire continents. Keltar became very still. "What kind of small changes?" "Well," Lisa said, still excited, "if you reverse the atmospheric processors, you could remove all oxygen from a planet in about 6 hours. Or you could release toxic gases instead of clean air. The gravity manipulators could create earthquakes or volcanic eruptions." The soil modification system could spread engineered diseases or turn farmland into poison. The weather control could create permanent storms or freeze entire continents. She paused, noticing the alien's expression. But we would never do any of that. This is for helping people. Keltar looked at his companions. They spoke in their own language, voices filled with what sounded like panic. Dr. Brooks, Keltar said slowly. How long did it take you to think of those weapons applications? Lisa blinked. What do you mean? From the moment I asked about modifications, how much time passed before you described 17 different ways to destroy entire worlds? Lisa thought about it. I don't know. Maybe 30 seconds? The three aliens stepped backward. Keltar's skin had turned a darker shade of blue. Captain Morris and Dr. Brooks, you have proven our point perfectly. Your species cannot help itself. You see a tool designed to create life, and instantly your minds jump to ways it could cause death. This is why the Federation fears you. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. But we don't want to hurt anyone. Your intentions do not matter, Keltar said. Your nature does. Other species in the galaxy take centuries to develop weapons from peaceful technology. Humans do it in seconds without even trying. The ambassador moved toward the door. You have 6 months to comply with our demands. Stop all research, submit to Federation control, or we will take action to protect the galaxy from what you might build. What kind of action? Jake asked. Keltar paused at the doorway. The kind that ensures you never build anything again. The aliens left without another word. Jake and Lisa stood in the laboratory surrounded by machines designed to create new worlds. Now those same machines felt different, dangerous. Lisa looked at the terraforming device with new eyes. Jake, I really did think of all those weapons in 30 seconds, didn't I? Jake nodded slowly. We need to contact Earth immediately. Outside the windows, Jupiter's storm continued to rage, beautiful and terrible, just like the human mind. The great chamber on Nexus Prime stretched higher than any human building. Thousands of representatives from across the galaxy filled the curved seats that rose in perfect circles around the central speaking area. The air hummed with translation devices converting hundreds of languages into understanding. Council leader Zethmore stood at the center podium, his 4 arms raised for silence. He was old even by the standards of his long-lived species. His purple skin bore the ritual scars of wisdom, and his eyes held the weight of centuries. The human question must be resolved, he announced. His voice carried easily through the chamber. War strategist Nixara will present the intelligence report. Nixara moved to the podium with fluid grace. Her species had evolved from hunters, and it showed in every movement. Her black scales caught the light as she activated the holographic display. The humans call themselves peaceful, she began, but observe their history. Images filled the air above the assembly. Scenes of human wars, weapons, destruction. But Nixara focused on something else entirely. Notice how they fight, she said. The Kethalani species developed energy weapons after 3,000 years of technological growth. Humans took farming tools and made them into weapons in their first century. They turned healing chemicals into poisons. They used communication devices to spread fear. They took machines meant to build homes and made them destroy cities. A representative from the peaceful Yiltari spoke up. Many young species are violent. They grow beyond it. No, Nixara replied firmly. Watch this. The display changed to show recent footage from the Jupiter station. The scene played where Dr. Brooks explained the terraforming device to Ambassador Keltar. The assembly watched in growing horror as the human woman casually described world-ending weapons while smiling. The chamber filled with shocked whispers in a dozen languages. She is not a soldier, Nixara explained. She is their top scientist, dedicated to creating life. Yet in 30 seconds she conceived more ways to destroy planets than our military theorists develop in years of study. Another representative stood. Perhaps this was an unusual individual. I thought so too, Nixara said. So we tested others. The display showed Admiral Kevin Hayes and Engineer Patricia Cole arriving at Federation headquarters 3 days earlier. They had come in response to the ultimatum, hoping to prove human peaceful intentions. The meeting had started well. Admiral Hayes was a professional soldier with gray hair and kind eyes. He spoke of humanity's desire for peace and cooperation. Engineer Cole was a quiet woman who preferred machines to politics. She seemed harmless. But when the Federation representatives showed them around their facilities, something terrible happened. We showed them our finest achievements, Zethmore explained to the assembly. Our energy shields, our medical bays, our transportation systems. We wanted to demonstrate our advanced civilization. The hologram showed Patricia Cole examining a Federation energy shield generator. Her expression was curious, interested. She asked simple questions about how it worked. Very impressive, she had said. The energy matrix is quite stable. Though if you rotated the field harmonics by 30 degrees and added a resonance amplifier, you could probably punch through any armor in the galaxy, or if you inverted the polarity and created a feedback loop, you could turn it into a weapon that would destroy anything in a 50-mile radius. The Federation engineers had stared at her in shock. The shield had taken them centuries to perfect. She had weaponized it in minutes while complimenting their work. It got worse. In the medical bay, Patricia had admired their healing technology. Wonderful work, she said. The cellular regeneration beam could probably be modified to accelerate aging instead, or cause cancer, or if you adjusted the frequency, it might dissolve specific metals. That could be useful for breaking into secure facilities. In the transportation center, she had studied their matter teleporters. Fascinating, she said. I wonder if you could use this to teleport bombs directly into enemy ships, or teleport parts of their hull away, or maybe teleport their crew into space. With each casual observation, the Federation representatives had grown more frightened. This woman was not trying to threaten anyone. She was just thinking out loud, the way humans apparently always did. Admiral Hayes had noticed the growing tension. Is something wrong? He asked. Your engineer, the Federation guide had whispered. She keeps talking about weapons. Hayes looked confused. Patricia? She's one of our most peaceful citizens. She designs children's playgrounds in her spare time. I just find the technology interesting, Patricia had said innocently. I always wonder how things work and how they could work differently. The hologram faded. The assembly sat in stunned silence. Every human we have encountered shows this same pattern, Nixara reported. They cannot see any tool, any technology, any system without immediately understanding how to weaponize it. They do not choose to think this way. It appears to be how their minds naturally function. Council leader Zethmore stepped forward again. We have studied their history in detail. When they discovered fire, they used it to cook food and warm homes. Within generations, they were using it as a weapon. When they learned to farm, they immediately developed better weapons from their farming tools. When they created writing, they used it to coordinate larger armies. But surely their intentions matter, protested a representative from the crystal-based Silnari. If they do not wish to harm others, intentions change, Zethmore replied gravely. What matters is capability, and humans have a capability unlike any species we have ever encountered. They can look at any peaceful technology and instantly see its weapons potential. Not after years of study, not after careful planning, instantly, naturally, effortlessly, Nixara brought up new images. Our scientists have studied their brains. They show unusual activity in areas associated with pattern recognition and creative problem solving. When they see any system, their minds automatically run through thousands of possible modifications and applications. Most species only see the intended use. Humans see every possible use. The implications were staggering. The Federation had shared technology freely for thousands of years. Advanced species helped younger ones develop medicine, transportation, communication. It was how galactic civilization grew. But humans would take every gift and turn it into something deadly, not from malice but from nature. We face an impossible choice, Zethmore announced. If we isolate humanity, we deny them the chance to grow and contribute to galactic civilization. If we help them advance, we give them tools to potentially destroy all life in the galaxy. What do our strategists recommend? Asked the Velthani representative. Nixara's scales darkened. There is only one way to be certain. Humans never build weapons that could threaten the galaxy. The chamber fell silent. Complete elimination of the species before they develop interstellar war capabilities. The vote was swift and unanimous. 50,000 ships would gather at the edge of human space. The strike would be quick and merciful. Humanity would be remembered as a tragic species that evolution had made too dangerous to survive. As the representatives filed out, many felt sadness for what they were about to do. But fear was stronger than sadness. The galaxy had seen what humans could build from peaceful technology in just minutes of casual observation. No one wanted to see what they could build if they actually tried. President Ryan Clark sat in the secure briefing room deep beneath the White House. The message from Admiral Hayes had arrived through encrypted channels just hours before. Around the conference table sat the most powerful people in human space: General Carmen Rodriguez, Admiral Susan Parker, and a dozen other military and civilian leaders. Ryan was a tall man with steady hands and gray hair that had turned white in the past year. Leading humanity through its expansion into space had aged him, but this news made him feel ancient. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," he said, looking at the transmission transcript. "The aliens have decided to wipe out our entire species because we think too creatively about technology." General Rodriguez nodded grimly. She was a small woman with fierce eyes and scars from the Mars colony wars. "That's the basic situation, sir. They're mobilizing 50,000 ships for what they call preventive action. How long do we have?" "Intelligence suggests 6 weeks, maybe less," Admiral Parker replied. She commanded humanity's small space fleet, mostly patrol vessels and cargo ships. Against 50,000 alien warships, they would last about 6 minutes. "Options?" Ryan asked. "We could try diplomacy again," suggested Dr. Nathan Young, the president's science advisor. He was a quiet man who had spent years designing strategy games before joining the government. "Maybe if we explain..." "Explain what?" Carmen interrupted. "That we promise not to think? That we'll lobotomize ourselves to make them feel safe?" Ryan stared at the alien footage again. The moment when Patricia Cole had casually weaponized 3 Federation technologies while complimenting their builders. He could see the fear in the alien faces, and he understood it. "We need to face facts," he said slowly. "They're right about us, aren't they? We do weaponize everything we touch." The room fell silent. It was an uncomfortable truth. "Maybe that's not entirely bad," said Dr. Young quietly. "If we're naturally good at finding weaknesses and alternative uses for technology, maybe we can use that to defend ourselves." Admiral Parker looked up sharply. "What are you suggesting?" "Project Looking Glass," Nathan replied. "We stop trying to build conventional weapons to fight conventional ships. Instead, we do what humans do best. We take everything we already have and make it into something they won't expect." Ryan felt a spark of hope. "Explain." Nathan stood and moved to the holographic display. "Look at our infrastructure. Shopping centers, subway systems, orbital platforms, mining stations, communication networks. The aliens see peaceful civilian facilities. But what if they're not?" Carmen's eyes narrowed with understanding. "You want to weaponize our entire civilization." "Not weaponize," Nathan corrected. "Repurpose. Everything we built to support human life can be modified to defend human life. And since we think about modifications naturally, we should be very good at it." The ideas began flowing. Admiral Parker suggested that orbital mining platforms could be converted into defensive batteries. Their industrial lasers were more powerful than most military weapons. General Rodriguez pointed out that subway tunnels could become underground fortresses, and civilian transportation networks could move troops faster than any military system. "What about our space elevators?" asked Maya Thompson, Earth's chief engineer. She was a practical woman who solved problems by building things. "They're basically massive railguns pointing into space." Ryan felt the mood in the room changing from despair to excitement. This was what humans did. They took impossible problems and found unexpected solutions. "We'll need to be careful about panic," he said. "We can't tell the civilian population that aliens are coming to destroy them." Nathan smiled for the first time that day. "We don't have to. We tell them we're running a large-scale emergency preparedness exercise. Citizens love helping with disaster planning. And for the technical modifications, we gamify it," Nathan said. His background in game design was showing. "We create an online strategy simulation where people design defensive scenarios using existing infrastructure. We tell them it's a new entertainment program. Crowdsource the entire defense of humanity while people think they're playing a game." Carmen laughed, but there was no humor in it. "That's either brilliant or insane." "With humans, those are often the same thing," Ryan replied. Within 48 hours, Project Looking Glass was operational. Across human space, what appeared to be routine maintenance and upgrades began on thousands of facilities. Shopping malls gained reinforced structures and hidden weapon emplacements. Office buildings sprouted communication arrays and shield generators. Civilian ships received mysterious new equipment packages labeled as efficiency upgrades. The online game Nathan designed launched to enormous popularity. Fortress Earth challenged players to defend cities using only existing infrastructure. Millions of humans contributed ideas, turning water treatment plants into chemical weapons factories, converting sports stadiums into military bases, transforming libraries into intelligence centers. Most players thought it was just entertainment. A few suspected it was something more, but they contributed even more enthusiastically. Maya Thompson worked 18-hour days coordinating the modifications. The beauty of the human approach was its simplicity. They weren't building new weapons from scratch. They were just changing the purpose of things that already existed. Status report, Ryan asked during one of their daily briefings. Phase 1 is complete, Maya reported. Every major population center now has integrated defensive capabilities that look like civilian infrastructure. Phase 2 begins tomorrow, which is, we start modifying our space-based assets. Communication satellites become sensor networks. Research stations become command centers. And those deep space telescopes we built to study distant galaxies. She smiled, and Ryan suddenly understood why the aliens were afraid of humans. We're turning them into weapons, aren't we? The most powerful long-range energy projection system ever built, Maya confirmed. Dr. Amanda Lewis calls it the Prometheus Protocol. 17 telescopes scattered across the solar system, each one capable of focusing a particle beam across interstellar distances. The aliens will see them as harmless scientific instruments, Admiral Parker realized. Right up until we start shooting, Carmen added with satisfaction. But the most important development was happening in the minds of the planners themselves. As they worked, human creativity began operating at its highest level. Each solution led to 3 new problems, which led to 9 new solutions, which revealed 27 new possibilities. Dr. Young found himself designing adaptive algorithms that could modify defensive strategies in real time. Engineer Cole safely returned from her terrifying diplomatic mission, created modular construction systems that could rebuild damaged defenses faster than enemies could destroy them. Even President Clark contributed ideas. His background in law led him to design legal frameworks for what would happen after the war, because he was already thinking about how to govern aliens who had tried to destroy humanity. Are we becoming what they feared? Ryan asked Nathan during a quiet moment. Nathan considered the question seriously. Maybe, but the alternative is extinction. Sometimes you have to become the monster to fight the monsters, and after we win, assuming we win, Nathan corrected, then we figure out how to be human without being terrifying. Is that possible? Nathan looked out the window at the night sky, where invisible modifications were being made to every human facility among the stars. I don't know, he admitted. But we're about to find out. The alien fleet was coming. In 2 weeks, 50,000 ships would arrive to destroy humanity. They expected to find a primitive species with basic weapons and simple defenses. Instead, they would find something that had never existed in galactic history. An entire civilization that had been weaponized by minds that couldn't help but see the destructive potential in everything they touched. The galaxy's worst fears were about to come true. The alien fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Tau Ceti system, like a dark cloud blotting out the stars. 50,000 ships arranged themselves in perfect formation, their weapons powered and shields raised. Admiral Vexthul commanded the largest military force in galactic history from his flagship, the Divine Judgment. Vexthul was a veteran of 12 wars, but he had never led an extermination fleet before. The thought troubled him, but the orders were clear. Eliminate the human threat before it could spread beyond their small corner of space. Scan the system, he ordered his sensor operator. Show me what the humans have built. The main display lit up with tactical information. 3 human colonies orbited the Tau Ceti star. The planets showed typical signs of human development. Cities, industrial centers, farming regions. Several space stations hung in orbit around each world, along with the usual collection of mining platforms and research facilities. Defensive capabilities? Vexthul asked. Minimal, his weapons officer reported. We detect some energy shields around their cities and a few orbital platforms that might have weapons. Nothing that could threaten a fleet of this size. Vexthul studied the display more carefully. Something felt wrong. The humans had known this attack was coming for weeks. They were supposedly the most dangerously creative species in the galaxy, yet their defenses looked almost primitive. Perhaps they have decided to surrender, suggested his tactical officer. Or perhaps they are not showing us everything, Vexthul replied grimly. He was right to be suspicious. Deep in the asteroid belt, Captain Billy Foster watched the alien fleet through the sensors of the New Frontier. His ship looked like a standard cargo hauler, the kind that moves supplies between colonies. The aliens had scanned it and dismissed it as non-threatening. They had no idea that its cargo holds were packed with the most advanced weapons humanity had ever built, or that its mining lasers could punch through military armor like paper. All units, "This is command," came the voice of Admiral Susan Parker over the encrypted channel. "The party has started. Remember, look harmless until they get close." Billy smiled grimly. Around him, dozens of civilian ships waited in the asteroid field. Cargo haulers, mining vessels, research ships, even a few luxury liners that had been visiting the system when the war began. All of them had been modified in ways the aliens would never expect. The alien fleet moved toward the inner planets with overwhelming confidence. This would be a quick battle. The first surprise came when they reached the outer defensive perimeter. "Admiral, we are detecting weapons fire," the sensor operator reported with confusion. "But there are no ships out there." "Explain," Vexthul demanded. "The mining platforms, sir. They are shooting at us." On the display, the simple industrial platforms that extracted resources from asteroids suddenly revealed hidden weapons batteries. What the aliens had taken for mining equipment turned out to be military-grade particle cannons disguised as industrial tools. "Those are civilian facilities," Vexthul's tactical officer protested. "Not anymore," Vexthul replied grimly. "Return fire. Destroy them all." The alien ships opened fire, expecting to sweep away the platforms easily. Instead, the mining stations deployed energy shields that absorbed the attacks while continuing to fire back with surprising accuracy. Then the asteroid field itself came alive. "Sir, the asteroids are moving," the sensor operator called out in alarm. What the aliens had thought were natural rock formations revealed themselves as camouflaged ships. The New Frontier and dozens of vessels like it emerged from hiding and opened fire at close range. Billy's cargo hauler moved with shocking agility for such a large ship. Its industrial engines had been modified for combat maneuvering, and its hull had been reinforced with the same materials used in military armor. When its weapons fired, they struck with the force of a military cruiser. "All ships scatter and engage," Billy ordered his small fleet. "Make them work for every kill." The alien formation began to break apart as human vessels darted between their larger ships like fighters. But these weren't normal fighters. They were cargo ships built for durability, with cargo holds converted into weapon bays and engines designed to haul massive loads at high speed. Admiral Vexthul watched in growing alarm as his tactical display filled with red markers. Human ships were everywhere, and none of them behaved like normal military vessels. "Sir, we are receiving a communication from the humans," his communications officer reported. "Put it through." The face of Admiral Susan Parker appeared on the screen. She was an older woman with steel-gray hair and eyes like ice. "Admiral Vexthul, I am Admiral Parker of the Human Defense Force. You have entered our space with hostile intent. I am offering you one chance to withdraw." Vexthul's anger flared. "You are outnumbered 50-1, human. Surrender now and we will make your deaths quick." Parker smiled coldly. "You still don't understand what you're dealing with." "Let me show you," the transmission ended. Seconds later, the second phase of the human defense began. Dr. Amanda Lewis sat in what appeared to be an ordinary astronomical observatory on the fourth planet of the system. Around her, massive telescopes pointed toward distant galaxies, continuing their peaceful scientific mission. Except today, those telescopes had a different purpose. "Prometheus protocol is active," she announced to her team. "All stations report ready." Across human space, 17 deep space telescopes swiveled toward the alien fleet. The alien sensors detected the movement, but classified it as normal scientific observation. After all, these were just research instruments. The telescopes fired. 17 streams of concentrated particles crossed space at the speed of light. The beams struck the alien command ships with devastating precision, cutting through their shields and armor like they were made of paper. "What is happening?" Vexthul demanded as his flagship shook under the impact. "The telescopes, sir," his sensor operator said in disbelief. "They are weapons. All of them." In 12 minutes, the Prometheus protocol destroyed the command structure of the alien fleet. Admiral Vexthul found himself commanding nothing but chaos as ship after ship lost contact with fleet. Coordination, But the humans weren't finished. The research stations scattered throughout the system suddenly revealed their true nature. What the aliens had thought were laboratories and communication arrays turned out to be mobile command centers with adaptive shielding and rapid deployment weapon systems. The farming installations on the planets began launching swarms of what looked like agricultural drones. Only when they reached the alien ships did it become clear that humanity had weaponized their food production systems, turning crop-tending robots into guided missiles. Even the passenger liners joined the fight. The luxury ships that had been carrying tourists and business travelers suddenly sprouted weapon ports from hidden compartments and began coordinating attacks with military precision. Vex Thule realized with growing horror that there was no such thing as a civilian target in human space. Everything the humans had built could fight, and all of it was fighting now. But the most terrifying moment came when the humans began adapting. Captain Billy Foster's ship took heavy damage in the first hour of combat. As his crew worked to repair the systems, they also modified them. Weapon arrays were reconfigured for better efficiency. Shield generators were adjusted to match alien frequencies. Engine systems were optimized for new combat patterns. By the second hour, Billy's ship was fighting better than it had when the battle started. "How are they doing this?" Vexthul asked his science officer. "They are learning from our attacks, sir. Adapting their defenses in real time. Every time we find a way to hurt them, they change to counter it. That should take months of analysis." "For us? Yes. But these are humans." Vexthul watched in fascination and terror as the human vessels began using hybrid technologies that combined their own innovations with captured alien systems. In 3 hours, they had reverse-engineered Federation technology and improved upon it. When the alien fleet finally retreated, they left behind more than just ships. They left behind the certainty that they understood how war worked. The humans fought like no species they had ever encountered. They turned every tool into a weapon, every civilian facility into a fortress, every retreat into a trap. Most disturbing of all, they learned and adapted faster than should have been possible. As Vexthul's battered fleet limped away from human space, he sent a message to the Federation Council. The humans are not just dangerous because of what they might build. They are dangerous because of how quickly they can rebuild, relearn, and return stronger than before. The first battle was over. The humans had won, but in winning they had proven everything the galaxy feared about them was true. 6 months after the first battle, Admiral Tony Garcia stood on the bridge of the Terra Nova, watching the surrender ceremony taking place on the planet below. The irony was not lost on him that humanity's flagship was a converted cruise ship that had been carrying families on vacation when the war began. Tony was a quiet man with kind eyes and steady hands. Before the war, he had commanded cargo ships carrying supplies to distant colonies. Now he commanded the most feared fleet in galactic history, though he had never wanted the job. The surrender ceremony was being broadcast across the galaxy. Representatives from every member species of the former Federation had gathered on Nexus Prime to formally end the war that was supposed to eliminate humanity. Instead, it had ended with human ships positioned around every major alien world in the galaxy. "Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from the surface," reported Lieutenant Carol Martinez, his communications officer. "Put it through." The main screen showed the great chamber where the galaxy's leaders sat in defeated silence. Council leader Zethmore stood at the center podium, his forearms trembling with age and exhaustion. "Admiral Garcia," the old alien said, "we formally surrender all military forces to human command. We beg for mercy." Tony felt no satisfaction in the moment. The war had been terrible for both sides. Entire worlds had been evacuated as the conflict spread across dozens of star systems. But in the end, human adaptability had proven unstoppable. "The war is over," Tony announced, "but we are not conquerors. We want to build something better." Behind him on the bridge, Dr. Rebecca Martinez finished reviewing the final scientific reports. She was a small woman with bright eyes who studied alien biology. Her discovery would change how the galaxy understood itself. "Tony," she said quietly, "you need to see this." He moved to her station, where genetic data scrolled across multiple screens. "What am I looking at?" "The answer to why humans are different," Rebecca replied. "We've completed genetic analysis of 17 different alien species. They all share something that humans lack: She highlighted specific gene sequences on the display. Every other species in the galaxy evolved what we're calling a safety inhibitor, psychological block that prevents them from weaponizing their own survival tools. It developed after their first global wars nearly destroyed their homeworlds. Tony studied the data. But humans never developed this? Our early wars were never quite devastating enough to trigger the evolutionary response, Rebecca explained. We came close several times, but we always pulled back just before the point where the safety mechanism would have activated. So we're not more violent than other species, Tony realized. We just never learned to limit ourselves. Exactly. Other species literally cannot think of certain weapon applications because their brains evolved to block those thoughts. When they see a medical device, they can only see healing. When they see a farming tool, they can only see agriculture. But humans see every possible use. Tony looked out at the stars where human ships maintained watch over former enemy worlds. No wonder they were afraid of us. The truth changed everything. Humans weren't monsters. They were just the only species that had retained the full range of creative thinking that evolution usually limited. Captain Jake Morrison arrived the next day to help establish the new galactic government. He brought with him a proposal that would reshape civilization. They met in what had been the Federation Council chamber. Jake sat across from Tony, Rebecca, and representatives from a dozen alien species who had been chosen to help design the future. We can't rule the galaxy through fear, Jake said, but we also can't pretend the problem doesn't exist. Humans really are dangerous in ways other species aren't. Ambassador Keltar, who had survived the war despite being on the losing side, spoke up nervously. What do you propose? The Human Accords, Jake replied. We establish a new government with humans as both protectors and weapons developers, but under oversight by a council that includes our own philosophers and ethicists. Tony nodded. We use our gift responsibly. Humans develop technology for defense and exploration, but every project gets reviewed by mixed councils of humans and aliens. And we help other species learn to think more creatively without removing their safety inhibitors, Rebecca added. Humans can teach expanded problem-solving while aliens teach restraint and wisdom. The negotiations took months, but eventually the framework emerged. The new Galactic Alliance would be protected by human military technology, but governed by consensus between all species. Human creativity would be channeled into beneficial projects, terraforming dead worlds, developing new medicines, creating better transportation and communication systems. Most importantly, humans would teach their way of thinking to volunteers from other species, while learning alien concepts of restraint and long-term planning. Admiral Susan Parker, now serving as the Alliance's first defense coordinator, established the new military structure. Human ships would patrol space lanes and respond to emergencies, but their primary mission was exploration and peaceful contact with new species. The integration wasn't always smooth. Dr. Nathan Young, working on educational programs, found that alien students struggled to think creatively while human students had trouble learning when not to apply their creativity. But progress came. On the 5th anniversary of First Contact, Maya Thompson stood in a classroom on the former Federation capital world. Around her, human and alien children worked together on their assignment, designing a better water purification system. The human children naturally suggested dozens of modifications and improvements. The alien children provided careful analysis of long-term consequences and ethical implications. Together, they created solutions that neither group could have developed alone. Remember, Maya told her mixed class, we're not just making water cleaner. We're making life better for everyone. Think about how your design will affect people 50 years from now. 8-year-old Peter Kim raised his hand. Ms. Thompson, could this design be used to make weapons? Maya smiled. Peter was human, naturally thinking about alternative applications. What do you think, Zara? The young Velthani student considered carefully. The chemical processes could potentially be reversed, but that would require someone to deliberately modify the safety systems and ignore multiple warning protocols. The design includes protection against misuse. Good analysis, both of you, Maya said. Peter, you're thinking about potential problems, which helps us build better safeguards. Zara, you're thinking about how to prevent those problems from happening. When we work together, we can be both creative and wise. After class, Maya walked through the corridors of what had once been a center of fear and suspicion. Now human and alien children played together in hallways where their representatives had once debated humanity's extinction. She found Admiral Morrison in his office, reviewing reports from exploration fleets that were making peaceful contact with newly discovered species. "How are the first contact protocols working?" she asked. Jake looked up from his reading. "Better than expected. When new species see humans and aliens working together, they're less frightened of our unique abilities. And having alien diplomats present helps us explain why we think the way we do." "Any regrets about how things turned out?" Jake considered the question. "I regret that it took a war to bring us together. But I don't regret that humans remained human. We just learned to be human responsibly." Outside the window, construction crews made up of multiple species worked on expanding the facility. Human engineers designed adaptive systems that could be modified for different alien needs. Alien workers provided the patience and long-term planning that ensured the construction would last for centuries. In the distance, human warships patrolled the space lanes, their weapons hidden but ready. They were still the most dangerous vessels in the galaxy, but now they served to protect rather than threaten. The galaxy had been right to fear what humans could build. They had built weapons that could destroy worlds, defenses that seemed impossible, and solutions to problems no one else could solve. But they had also built something else. A future where creativity and wisdom worked together, where the species that could weaponize anything chose instead to build a better tomorrow for everyone. The human accords had succeeded not by changing human nature, but by giving it a worthy purpose. And across the galaxy, children of every species learned that the most powerful weapons humans had ever built were understanding, cooperation, and hope.